Imagine a festive gathering turned into a horrifying bloodbath within minutes. This was the reality of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. It was April 13, 1919, a day that would forever be etched in the annals of Indian history. A large crowd of unarmed civilians gathered in the public garden of Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar, Punjab. They were there to celebrate a religious festival and voice their protest against the oppressive Rowlatt Act. An act that gave the police the power to arrest any person without any reason, a blatant disregard for personal liberties and justice. Unbeknownst to the revelers, a dark cloud was looming over their peaceful gathering. British troops led by the infamous General Reginald Dyer were poised to strike. Without any warning, without any provocation, the troops opened fire on the crowd. The air was filled with the terrifying sounds of gunshots and terrified screams. The people, caught off guard, had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Hundreds of innocent lives were extinguished in the blink of an eye, and thousands more were left injured and traumatized. The once festive garden was transformed into a horrifying spectacle of death and despair. The walls of Jallianwala Bagh were stained with the blood of those who had gathered in the spirit of peace and unity. The news of the massacre spread like wildfire, sparking widespread outrage and condemnation across India and the world. The brutality of the act was a shocking revelation of the ruthless nature of colonial rule. The massacre served as a wake-up call for many, inspiring a surge of freedom fighters to join the non-cooperation movement led by Mahatma Gandhi. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre, a dark day in Indian history, served as a brutal reminder of the ruthless colonial rule. It was a stark demonstration of the lengths to which the British were willing to go to maintain their hold over India. But it also ignited a flame of resistance, a flame that would eventually lead India to its freedom. Now we move to a catastrophe that was not an act of nature, but a man-made disaster. The Bengal Famine of 1943. The year was 1943. In the throes of World War II, when a catastrophe of epic proportions unfolded in Bengal, a province in eastern India. The Bengal Famine, as it came to be known, was a devastating event that affected millions of lives, not due to any natural calamity, but because of a sequence of human errors, and more importantly, indifference. The famine's root causes were manifold. Crop failures indeed played a part. The crop of 1942 had been less than bountiful, and this put a strain on the food supply. But this alone could not have caused the widespread starvation that ensued. The famine was fueled further by hoarding, a practice where food supplies were held back to create artificial scarcity and drive up prices. Along with hoarding, rampant inflation and speculation exacerbated the situation. Prices soared, making it impossible for the common man to afford even basic sustenance. The wartime policies of the British colonial government also played a significant part. The denial policy, for instance, aimed at thwarting Japanese invasion, led to the confiscation of boats and other means of food transportation. This, in turn, severely disrupted the food supply chain. But perhaps the most damning indictment of the British administration was its failure to provide relief to the starving population. Despite being aware of the dire situation, the British authorities did not take adequate steps to alleviate the suffering. Food grains that could have been used to feed the starving were instead diverted to other regions and even other countries, ostensibly to support the war effort. The human cost of these policy failures was immense. An estimated 3 million people perished in the famine, mostly from starvation and disease. The streets of Calcutta and other cities were filled with emaciated bodies, while the countryside was ravaged by hunger and despair. The famine did not discriminate. It affected the young and the old, the rich and the poor, the rural and the urban. The Bengal famine also laid bare the cruel indifference of the British rule towards the Indian people. Winston Churchill, the then British Prime Minister, is reported to have said in response to urgent requests for food relief, "If food is so scarce, why hasn't Gandhi died yet?" Such callous disregard for human life was a stark reminder of the colonial mindset that viewed Indians as expendable. The Bengal famine, a horrific instance of administrative failure, exposed the indifference of the British rule towards Indian lives. This tragic episode serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of mismanagement, indifference, and colonial exploitation. It underscores the importance of responsive and empathetic governance, the absence of which can turn even a manageable situation into a catastrophe. Next, we delve into a chapter that led to the birth of two nations amidst chaos and bloodshed. The Partition of India. This was an epical event that marked the end of British colonial rule and the emergence of India and Pakistan as separate, independent states. The journey to this monumental partition started when Lord Mountbatten, the last Viceroy of India, announced it on June 3, 1947. The decision, though aimed at ending religious strife, ignited a paradoxical spark, fueling a fire of violence and hatred. This partition was not merely a political act, it was a gigantic, tumultuous human drama. The borders drawn on the map became lines of fire in reality, as millions of people found themselves on the wrong side. Hindus and Sikhs from Pakistani territories headed towards India, while Muslims from Indian territories moved towards Pakistan. This massive migration, one of the largest in human history, was marked with blood and tears. As people moved, communal passions flared, leading to riots, massacres, and unimaginable atrocities. Neighbor turned against neighbor, friend against friend. Houses were looted, women were abducted, and countless lives were lost. The violence was such that it seemed humanity itself had been partitioned. The aftermath of the partition was no less traumatic. Millions of refugees on both sides of the newly drawn borders were left homeless, struggling to rebuild their lives from scratch. The partition had uprooted them, shattered their sense of belonging, and left them with a deep sense of loss. Yet, amidst this chaos and bloodshed, there were also stories of courage, compassion, and resilience. Ordinary individuals became extraordinary heroes, risking their lives to save others, regardless of their religion. These stories serve as a beacon of hope amidst the darkness, reminding us of the enduring strength of the human spirit. The partition of India left a legacy that goes beyond the physical division of territory. It left a deep scar on the psyche of the two nations, a scar that continues to affect their relationship even today. The echoes of the partition can be heard in the ongoing political tensions, border disputes, and communal disharmony. Yet it also serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of divisive politics and the importance of communal harmony. It underscores the need for tolerance, understanding, and respect for diversity in our increasingly interconnected world. The partition of India, a bloody and painful separation, left a deep scar on the psyche of the two nations. It was a historical event that changed the course of history, shaped the destiny of millions, and continues to reverberate in the collective memory of the people. And yet, it is also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity to rebuild and start anew, even in the face of unimaginable tragedy. Let's now reflect on these dark moments and their relevance today. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre, the Bengal famine of 1943, and the partition of India are not just historical events. They are lessons from the past, profound reminders of the importance of unity, human rights, and empathetic governance. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre was a stark demonstration of the tragic consequences when power is wielded without regard for human life. It underlines the necessity of standing against oppressive forces and fighting for justice and freedom. This event is a reminder that the right to peaceful protest, a cornerstone of any democratic society, is not a given, but often a hard-won battle. The Bengal famine of 1943, a humanitarian crisis of colossal proportions, demonstrates how political decisions can have devastating effects on an entire population. It underscores the importance of responsible governance, of leaders who prioritize their people's well-being over political or economic gains. In today's interconnected world, where a decision in one corner can ripple across the globe, this lesson is more significant than ever. The partition of India, a painful and bloody chapter, teaches us the destructive potential of divisiveness. It is a grim reminder of how religious, ethnic, or cultural differences can be exploited to incite fear, hatred, and violence. In a world that is increasingly polarized, the lessons from the partition underscore the need for tolerance, understanding, and unity. These historical events have shaped the identity of modern India and continue to resonate in the collective consciousness of its people. They serve as a warning against the perils of division and the abuse of power. They also highlight the strength and resilience of the human spirit, the capacity to rise from the ashes, and the ceaseless quest for justice and freedom. In a world still grappling with conflict, inequality, and injustice, these lessons from history are not just relevant, but essential. They remind us of the need to strive relentlessly for peace, unity, and empathetic leadership. These darkest moments in Indian history serve as poignant reminders of the price paid for freedom and the value of peace and harmony.